The year was 2013, and I had spent the day with my girlfriend at the time at a nearby lake when we saw this huge hairy creature with a snout crossing one of the smaller roads. It scared us, but I tried to joke and play it off and say, "Oh look babe, it's your dad." Her dad is a really lumbering, tall, and very hairy man. My girlfriend at the time was very into the weird side of science, like Bigfoot and things of that nature. We talked about our sighting together, and she said that from what she knows about Bigfoots, they don't have snouts, and they don't look like a bear or a dog, and their heads are more cone-shaped. So we weren't really sure what to think about the whole ordeal. Later on in the day, we went and checked for tracks, which we couldn't find any. We looked where it had walked, but where it had walked over was gravel and thick grass with hard ground underneath. This thing walked from one side of the woods to the next, but it was in an open enough area where there was only sparse amount of tree coverage, and this is where we had full view of it without it ever seeing us. The sighting happened at around 3 p.m. in broad daylight. We had a perfect view in our sighting. The creature we saw was bulky and massive and covered in long reddish-brown hair. Since it was walking semi in our direction, we got a fairly decent look at its face and can see that it had a strong brow ridge and a shorter snout, resembling that of a bear or a bigger dog. I didn't see any ears to recall seeing any ears. Its arms were very long, and I couldn't really see any feet or anything specific about the hands, just because of the angle we were at. Its stride, though, was pretty humongous, considering it cleared the small gravel road in just 3 to 4 strides and was already off to a different segment of woods. Driving down a back road at around midnight with headlights and brights on, I saw a large, tall black animal walking on its back 2 legs toward my vehicle at first, and then off into the road. It crossed the road really fast. When I saw it, it was in the middle of the road, approaching me, and there was no other traffic on the road. I was coming around a sharp curve or bend in the road when I saw it. It had a surprised expression on its face. I was in shock myself, and I did not even think to put the brakes on. So this thing jumps out on the road, turns and walks towards me, and then is off to the other side of the road in a flash. I drive through, and I'm still in total shock at what I saw. I was on my way home from a late family outing, and one of the quickest ways is through this backcountry road. I've been driving through here for years, and I've never seen anything like that creature before in my life. I'll never forget its glowing yellow eyes. They look so unnatural, like you can get lost in them. I almost felt like if I would have stared at them long enough, I would have been in a trance. This entire thing was unnatural looking. Afterwards, I had to keep rubbing my eyes just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating or in a dream. When I got home, I spent about an hour researching and trying to find anything I could that would point me in the direction of matching the description of what I saw. I stumbled upon things like Bigfoot encounters and the BFRO, but nothing on that website that I started looking through pointed me in the right direction. So I continued to search more and more, and that's when I found a creature called the DOGMAN. I spent some time reading up on stories that people had submitted, and that's when I came to these cryptid encounter YouTube channels, just like yours. I noticed yours, however, was one of the bigger ones, and so I began listening to the stories submitted by eyewitnesses. I was so shocked to conclude that this is the same creature that I saw that night. I must have caught it right as it was crossing the road, and I didn't realize I would be whipping right around the bend like that. The speed limit around the bend is 30, but the road was 45 itself. Since I know the road pretty well, and I would consider myself a local, like I said, I drive it a lot, so I was probably actually driving closer to 40 to 50 around the bend, and wham! My brights lit this thing up like a Christmas tree. I'm a guy that normally doesn't believe in Bigfoot or any of that silly stuff. In fact, I've always found it very silly. But now that I've had my own sighting of a DOGMAN creature, Maybe there's more out there than science refuses to acknowledge. Maybe science can't explain everything like I thought it could. Anyway, I wanted to personally reach out to you and thank you for being such a good resource for us out here to submit our encounters to, and for us to share our experiences and stories to those who may not have had any. While my encounter with this creature wasn't necessarily violent or hostile, it could have gone that way rather quickly, because from what I know, these creatures can be very unpredictable. And sure, it might have just been crossing the road innocently, for all I know. That doesn't mean I would have wanted to run into this thing while I was out of my truck. I'll never forget my horrible sighting of a living, breathing nightmare. I saw a horrible sight at night, back in the wintertime, when me and 3 of my friends and I were around this frozen lake nearby. We started seeing this large black humanoid creature walking on 2 legs through the brush on the other side of the lake. The creature never saw us or would stop to look at us. It was about 8 feet tall, judging by what we know of the area, and walking like a proud giant. We first thought it was one of our friends in a costume, trying to prank us. But then why would any of our friends come out here in the winter night where it's cold, in a costume? But when we got a little closer, we realized that it was indeed walking just like a human. We were all hunters and have had extensive firearms training, and even we felt compelled not to shoot at something like this. We could not believe what it was we were seeing. We got so scared, we broke off from our group and went back to see if we could see this thing again after it moved away. However, we were unsuccessful in seeing it. It walked around the frozen lake and walked over a little incline deep into the dead woods. The lake or pond is only about 15 feet deep in the deepest parts, so some of the water is frozen, if not all of it, but it is shallow, and the shallow parts you can fall through, which is only about 3 feet deep. The one thing that does amaze me and scare me is the creature's feet did not leave any human-like tracks, even though it just walked like a human. They were large bipedal canine tracks. Again, the creature was completely black. I know the area well and have hunted here my entire life. In fact, very recently, the wildlife up here has almost totally disappeared in just the recent years. I don't know if the sighting we had any connection to that. I've been up north for hunting and fishing for years and have never experienced anything like this, so I don't know why I did down here. I do know of 2 other incidents that happened in this same area. Maybe I can get one of my friends to share this with you. But one was a sighting years ago in the same area, and the other a couple of months ago in another different area. I can tell you quite bluntly and very firmly that this is not a case of mistaken identity. This creature clearly resembled an upright walking creature, black as the night and covered in dark, long, matted hair. I have never seen anything like it in the area, and I've spent endless days and nights up here before scouting. Whatever this creature was appeared to be on a mission because it was walking on a fast pace, not to be distracted by anything, like us. Who knows where it was headed and what it was planning on doing. Dogmen are very real creatures. I have had 2 different encounters with 3 of them. My first encounter took place in March of 2018. I was walking in the woods behind my parents' house. It was around 11 p.m., and I was walking through an area where you have to go down around a pond. As I was walking down, I began to hear a very loud guttural growl. At first I thought it was a bear, but it was too loud, and the growl was very close to the left of me. Then, about 1.5 meters away, there was another creature that I did not hear, but I saw movement. That's when I realized whatever this was, there were 2 of them. One surrounding me, and the other off to my right that I then heard another growl from. That's it, I thought. I was in grave danger. When I got to the spot where I saw both creatures, they both growled again, and then the tree that I was near began shaking violently, which again was right near me. I slowly began to back away, but the two creatures were still there, almost as if they were trying to bait me to walk closer. I slowly made my way back to my parents' house without either of them following me, by going very, very slowly. If I turned and ran, I thought they would just give chase and I would be a dead man. My parents were outside talking, and they asked me what was going on, seeing me coming back up so soon, since when I normally would go down there, I would spend a long time. I told them what had happened, and to my surprise, they appeared to believe me. Or maybe they knew something I didn't, because both of their faces went white. I didn't have the words to really describe what I saw myself that night. I felt like I was walking around in a real live horror movie. The second encounter took place on May 7th of 2018, around 12:30 in the morning. I was walking back to my car after dropping my friend off at the airport. I was roughly a quarter of the way to my destination when I started hearing a sound that reminded me of a wolf or a coyote, a howling, very distant in the wind. My windows were rolled down, and the sound kept getting closer and closer. I was driving slow. It sounded like something was running directly at my car, and it began to get so loud that the vibrations hurt my chest. I could feel something big was coming, so I slowed my car to see what I was hearing, to listen closer. I saw two eyes, a large head, a torso that was massive, and a long strides breaking out of the trees on the side of the road, headed towards my vehicle. The creature was about to cross and jump into the road, but stopped in its path as soon as it broke into the opening, staring me down from the woods. This thing was a hulking behemoth, and I wasn't going to waste any time staring at that thing more than I needed to. I got out of there as fast as I could. To give you an idea, a visual, so to speak, if you've ever seen what a minotaur looks like, very humanoid looking, a fully ripped bodybuilder body, ripped legs, ripped arms, huge hands, imagine that, with the hocks of a dog and dog feet, with huge hands and claws, and then for the head, just a big dog head, that more or not resembled a German Shepherd. That's what this thing looked like, and it was probably around 8 to 9 feet tall, if not bigger. When I say this thing was huge, I mean it was unrealistically huge. Anyway, that's my story. I hope you enjoyed it.